Welcome. This is an exciting day. This is the first episode in the first season of Voices of Iwa. My name is Iya Omisegun, and I am the founder and creator of IWA Lifestyle, which is a lifestyle brand that's committed to celebrating and amplifying the voices of women all across the diaspora, especially those of us who are focused on our healing and using African traditions in that process. So welcome. Today is really special because this episode is going to work a little bit differently. In our pilot episode, some people gave us some feedback that maybe it would be great for them to get to know me a little bit better. And we thought about it and we were like, who could help tell the story of Iwa and how we're here, how we got here, the history. And I was like, it has to be Sommer Sibilly-Brown, who lives in the Virgin Islands. If you don't know, that's where I'm from. And so she is here. I can see her on the screen. She's here with us. Say hi, Summer. Why don't you just introduce yourself a little bit?
Hello out there in podcast land. I am Sommer Sibilly-Brown Adedoyin, and really excited to be here today on Voices of Iwa with Iya Omi, who I call a plethora of names, but today I'll make sure I keep Iya Omi on the tip of my tongue. But yeah, I am a Virgin Islander. I have known Iya for my whole life, actually. So this is really beautiful to be on taking a throwback, right, with a friend to talk about origins because she's been part of mine's. So many of my origins. So I'm happy to be on today to be talking about the origin of Iwa and who she is in this story. So I get to play interviewer today.
Okay, but I think even before you are going to play interviewer, but I think one of the things we always want to start off with is kind of like, how did you get into the tradition? Like, what was that story for you? I want to hear your story right quick, and I know we're going to get to mine.
Oh, wow. So how I got into the tradition. One day I was in the Virgin Islands and my friend, Iya Omi, I didn't call her Iya Omi then, right? I just called her Omi. You were home visiting, and I remember you had on all white. We were walking from my house to your house, which is if you can envision a quarter of a stateside block, right? That's a Virgin Islands block. And you looked at me and you said, I went to the ocean and I prayed for you this morning. You explained to me that it was part of your New Year's tradition to go to the ocean and pray for the people that you loved and that you had messages for me and you didn't want it to feel strange. But, it was your duty to tell me. And you said to me, Summer, you have a lot of gifts. Like Ifa has blessed you with a lot of gifts. And if you don't use them, they'll be taken from you. I think the most impactful thing, I mean, it was a longer conversation than like use your gifts, right? But the part that stuck with me was that you said you can have the life that you dream of, and years from now, if you don't, right, I'm gonna be like, well, we had this conversation. And I was like, oh, okay. And you said to me, I'm not telling you what tradition to participate in. I am encouraging you to deepen your relationship with God and spirit, whatever that looks like for you. And you said to me, you have a calling with the water, so why don't you just start sitting by it and see how that plays out for you? And I said, okay. I said, sure, that sounds great. I'm gonna do it. And in summer fashion, I didn't. Um, Maybe 90 days passed, like 3 months passed, and it was a Sunday, and I said, you know what? Just go by the water and sit. And I started, I like journaling, I like writing. And so it became my practice to go to the ocean, to sit and to write. And truly in short order after I started doing that, and like with no real understanding except obedience that someone who loved me had said that I should try to spend more time discovering my spirituality. Um, in whatever form that came to me, and that the water would be helpful. And so In doing that, a series of things began to happen in my life that I can look back on now and see like it was the Orisha and Ifa opening up my destiny to me that started with that conversation and then with the relationship with the water. But like I had opportunities at work and those opportunities felt really uncomfortable, right? Things that put me in positions, but my reaction to those things really opened up my destiny. Um, and that just kind of kept going because then when I needed help, so one of the things was I had an opportunity to write a grant. And I called Omi because she was the only grant writer I knew. And I was like, hey, Omi, will you help me? And you said, sure, uh, I'm gonna help you. And you did. You jumped in as a friend, but also I feel like even if you didn't know it then in like your priestly duty, right? As a Ianifa, maybe you didn't see it as then now, but now I can look back and you like actually supported me in completing the assignments that were being given to me, even though I didn't know what I was carrying, right? And like today, part of my excitement in being able to tell this story is because it's very, very real. I don't want to get so emotional in the beginning of the podcast, so but it is a testament to having a Ianifa in your life, who's truly committed to Ifa in all the ways, right? Like obedience is key.
Those
And
tears
that's
stuff started.
yeah, but you asked for your friend and like this is so real for us, right? My life
Yeah.
has been drastically blessed, right? I cannot count the blessings and you have helped me by your dedication, right? In across the intersections of practice. You have used all your tools, your spiritual tools, your professional tools, like your whole capacity um to help me birth my destiny and be obedient to why Olodumare sent me here in the first place. And I wouldn't have that
Yeah.
without you, right? And like I get it. I wouldn't have it without Ifa, but without your initial obedience to give me a message that you didn't know how I would receive, right? Because I could have totally been like, this lady's crazy.
And that was so uncomfortable. It was super uncomfortable because I was like, she don't practice Ifa. I'm gonna about to tell her. Oh,
Yeah.
like the water has a message for you, Summer. Let's see how this goes. And you know what's interesting is that you weren't the only person that I gave a message to,
Mm.
and other people didn't receive it at all. And when I look back, I mean, we haven't even said who you are in the world. Right? Summer is a food security advocate. She's the founder and director of Virgin Islands Good Food. And it's called Virgin Islands Good Food, but Summer is working all over the world now on food security. She's being called
Thanks.
by the capital like please come and represent, because your knowledge and your understanding and your passion, right, it comes from, like you said, it's just your destiny. And moving from that one day where you were working at Ricardo Richards Elementary School to where you are now, just a couple of years, like that is a testament to the power of the Orisha and the power of walking in your destiny. And
Yeah.
that did start with a really scary conversation of like, I got a message for you from the water.
And
Crazy.
for listeners who may not um, be practitioners or who even are practitioners, I think I have had such a blessed and gentle journey with Ifa. I have had such a kind and loving and patient journey with the Orisha, right? Where it's like they have allowed me to take my time and grow, right? To grow into understand. I have so much more to grow, right? I am clear, but it is the most gentle relationship that I have experienced in terms of like, Summer, when you're ready, right? Like, do the best you can. And when you're ready, right, the next step is there, and the next step has no matter, even if I'm intimidated or scared or being like paranoid about what that next step is. And maybe on like a Iwa Voices, crazy things we don't tell you about people who just overreact. There's a whole series we could do on that, just centered on me with my overreactions. But truthfully, it's been such a gentle and kind and caring process. Um, I don't know other people's experience. I can only say what mine has been. I have been held in such care, such care. And so I do get emotional because it's one of the places in my life where I feel really secure and really good and really received and wholly accepted. So yeah.
Mm. Thank you.
Glad.
And we didn't practice this at all. I had my nerves and my jitters, and I was like, "Yeah, Summer, you're going to interview me." And then I just flipped the script just now. I was like, "Tell your story." Someone's looking at me like, "That ain't what we talked about." But I think that was. I think it's important for people to know people's story of how they got into the tradition, right? Those stories are always really rich. That narrative is always really rich. Um, and I really appreciate you sharing your story very
Well,
authentically.
very authentically. What I'm actually thinking is, it my turn to make her cry now? No, I'm joking. Joke, joke, joke. I don't want to make you cry.
Put on
But
mascara today. Let's not.
no, but I do want to hopefully in my interviewing of you uplift the power and the strength and the truth of, I think, who you have been to me and many others, and why EY is so important, and why this podcast is so meaningful, in many ways. And so I'm excited that I get the chance to hopefully be a mirror for you to reflect today.
Let's do it then.
All right, let's do it. So, Omisegun, you introduced us, you introduced me. Thank you very much for your graciousness. I want to ask you, what is your story, for Iwa, right? Like, character, the tradition, the clothing line, the movement. Um, did you think this is what you would be doing? And when you look back, you're like, how did you get here?
Yeah, I definitely go. How did I get here? I do think that I've known since the conceptions of Iwa, because because you and I were the ones that conceived of the thought of Iwa together, right? I didn't know what it was specifically. I definitely thought it was a like a clothing brand, right? And a way for us to maybe have some conversations that might be important to community in some places, but I definitely didn't know how deep it was. When I got a reading very early in the process, because I think that might have been like 2013 or 2014 or someplace around there. Um, and when we got the reading, well, when I got the reading, the Odu that fell is actually my Odu. And that's when I knew, like, this is crazy, right? And the diviner was like, run and do this, don't walk. Like, everything that you're thinking about doing, this is a part of your destiny. So when Osa Ogunda fell, he knew my Odu and he was like, do you see that? And I was like, I didn't even know how to read Opele then. So I was like, what does that mean? He was like, this is your Odu, this is Osa Ogunda. I was having a divination for Iwa and Osa Ogunda fell. And so what that meant to me was that this was really my destiny, right? And what I was supposed to do, but definitely didn't understand how deep it was, definitely didn't understand the importance of it. And that keeps evolving, right? It keeps growing and it keeps changing. And I keep learning more. It's like an onion peeling back, peeling back, peeling back. So even your story about destiny, right? And your destiny and you or leading women to their destiny. Like, I now understand that that is a part of who I am and a part of what I do naturally, right? As a leader, as Iyalode, right? In Egbe, we have different classes. So being at Iyalode, being a leader among women, I now have more clarity around what it is my destiny is and why it is I came to Earth. And now
Mm.
I have more clarity around how Iwa plays a vehicle, a part of that.
So I'm so glad you talked about the role of leading women, right? You lead women in several spaces in your life, right? You lead women in developing solutions consultant agency, DASCA. You lead women. You have a women's group that I want you to we'll touch on, right? And what you do in that group. But when when I mirrored, because I don't, it's so funny. I was there with you. I don't see myself as a partner in conceptualizing it. I see myself as a reflector. I remember we were in your home, right, in Atlanta, um, and we were having conversations actually about this started with us talking about carnival play mass, and
Right.
we were
Crazy.
iterating on a carnival troupe. And really
Which we
quickly
are
in the
gonna be doing this
house,
year.
yeah, we will be doing this year a carnival troupe, right? Um, but back then, really quickly, like it was like rapid fire. Do you remember the feeling like we were in a zone of it being a carnival troupe, and then all of a sudden we were talking about a clothing line, right? I think
I remember multiple conversations. So it's funny because you keep talking about the kitchen, and I keep thinking about Bella's couch. But maybe that was
mm,
us talking about the carnival troupe more and coming up with that conception around like calypso and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know if I can remember the kitchen in specific, but I do remember like multiple conversations, and I do remember it going from like 0 to 10 real fast.
that
And
0 to 10
then
energy was like it was like 0 to
and that's our
1,000.
life.
Yeah, that is our life. Um, that is our life, 0 to 1,000, because it wasn't 10, but like there were multiple iterations of this. And there's this one day in specific. We are in the West End, in your home in Atlanta, and we are talking about now what we have named Inspiring Women's Apparel, right?
Mhm.
And I think we felt super proud because we was like, oh my God, that spells out Iwa character. Yes, 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 right? Do you like because we felt smart.
I remember that. I remember that. I remember that. I do.
And
I
then
do. I do
we
remember
came
that.
up with a list. I don't know if you remember, but like the exchangeable A's for apparel, right? Because so originally
Mhm.
it was Inspiring Women's Apparel, right?
Mhm. That was
Now
an
it's
acronym for EY.
but now
Mhm.
we got rid of the acronym. It's just IWA, which I think has grown with you. As like you said, you became more rooted in your priesthood, in your role as a Yanifa, in your role with women, and in your role with your spiritual understanding of your destiny, right? But in the beginning, there was just these series of A's, and I would love for you to talk about the A's and um, how we kind of evolved those A's to being part of lifestyle and also aligned with our tradition.
Yeah, so I remember the conversation of the A's and the A's being like interchangeable, right? Like any A that we could find, right? Inspiring women's awareness, inspiring women's accountability, inspiring women's athleticism. Like we were just saying, like that A would just be interchangeable. Somewhere, and I think, I mean, again, time wise, I probably will get this wrong, but as we got closer to launching, right? Because we launched in 2017. April 2017 was when we launched. And somewhere in between there, we decided on solidifying the A's and those A's telling like a story, if you will. So it was like the things that were important to, um, not just like important to your growth. So important to growth, right? As we heal as women and as we do our work, right? So like rooting, the first A being ancestral alignment, right? So being aligned with spirit and that being very important. I think the second one was like awareness of who you are, because I this was also the first set of T-shirts that we had too. Now that I'm thinking about it, the awareness, right? Aware of who you are, and it wasn't just awareness of who you are, but then also awareness of the things that are going on around you. right? Because we talked about, like, so with you, with food security and there being, like other injustices in the world, and when really wanting to make people aware that there are things that are happening in the world that you have to pay attention to, um, and that you have to be cognizant of if you're gonna, if you're gonna live your destiny and really walk in the world. The other one was accountability. That was actually my favorite shirt. It's the green shirt that says
Mm-hmm.
accountable to self, family, and community. Because I think there's a larger conversation for us to talk about in holding ourselves accountable and being able to really hold others around us accountable to the person that they truly are, right? So when you're aligned, right, and you get to know more about who you are and how you're walking in the world, you're aware of yourself, you're aware of the world around you. Now you have to stay true to that, right? You have to be true to that. You have to be accountable to that. Um, I think maybe authenticity was even before accountability. So it was authentically me. That was another T-shirt. And being true to who you are and not having to change. There was all these conversations and all these books that I was reading on Black women shifting all the time, right? Like having to and especially with even me, right? But as I was coming into um, an understanding of my own spirituality, sometimes I didn't want to tell people that I was a priestess. Sometimes I didn't want to say, like, I believe in African traditions. And that was a big thing for me. I wanted to show up fully as myself wherever I was all the time. I didn't want to hide. I didn't want to feel like I had to have one Facebook page go one place and another Facebook page, for another. Um, I could be Tiffany Omisegun, right? I could be both, and it be one and not have to be separate. And that was really, so that was that whole authentic piece. And then achieving, right? Like really, really achieving who we were meant to be. Like not half of who we were meant to be, but fully, like being able to walk in my full self and achieve my full destiny, which at the time I don't think that I knew what that meant. um you're talking years ago, 7, 8 years ago. So I didn't know. And I don't even know if I fully know now. I think I have more of an idea, right? And I'm continuing to learn what that means, and walking in that no matter what challenge comes my way, right? But yeah, those were the A's, the 5 A's. Alignment, awareness, authenticity, accountability, and achievement.
So we had these 5 A's, and we had the t-shirts for sure.
Yeah.
Um, and we were also talking about things that are now more commonplace in the world, but weren't at the time, like size equality.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
like for me, I'll tell you what it feels like for me. It feels like for me, IWA was downloading universal information, right?
Mhm.
That somehow to women who were starting to become something independently, right? Me, my destiny, you, yours. We're accessing these really big concepts that now have a common place in our world in isolation of each other, which is why I say it was universal, right? Because this wasn't our lanes yet.
Right.
These were becoming our lanes. And that's a conversation we intentionally had about then the clothing line. Um, and I and I just wanted to pin this here because I also want you said something, you said the story, but there's a story of Iwa, right? And
Mhm.
there's Odu Ifa about it, right? So I want to give you
Yeah,
space to talk
definitely.
about that. And then because I want to connect it to the things that just are. But let me let you talk about the story of Iwa, right? That divine information that has existed in our society since the beginning.
Yeah. So you mean like the Odu is
Yeah,
what you're referring
please.
to?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that That's interesting. So the word EY itself, right, means character, which is why I think when we came up with inspiring women's apparel, we were like, oh, EY, like yes, right? Because EY is this very important principle of character that is central within Yoruba tradition, right, within Yoruba culture, right? Everything boils back down to character. Everything boils back down to the the way in which you live your life, right? I've heard people talk about character, Iwa also being like attitude, right? The attitude that you walk with, the attitude that you approach things with. So this concept of character being super, super, super important. I think where people slip to, right, is that Iwa in Odu Ifa, right, in our corpus itself, in our transcriptions, Iwa is a woman. So Iwa is married. She's a wife of Orumila, right? So Orumila being the one that holds everyone's destiny, right? That's who we go to when we're divining. When you divine with the Ianifa, you divine with the Babalao, you're approaching Orumila, right? Who holds all of our destiny. Well, Iwa character, right, was a wife of Orumila. And it's funny that I don't know why we don't talk about this story more because I think it's super important. So the long and short of the story, Ogbealara, Iwa is mistreated by Orumila, and Iwa decides that she doesn't want to be mistreated, so she leaves. Right? She's like, I'm out. Like this is too much for me. I don't want to be here. You're not treating me right, so I'm going to leave. And she in leaving, right, she doesn't have necessarily any place to go, so she goes to different babalawo's houses and she's knocking on doors and she's like, hey, I need some help, you know what I mean? Maybe she was looking for a divination, I don't know, but she was like, hey, I need some help. And she goes to these different babalawos and they're like, oh man, you're a Rumila's wife, I can't help you, sorry, Shadi, you got to go find somebody else to help you. um and I'm sure that's really, she's dejected because again, she's being mistreated and she's trying to get away, right? But the thing that I love about Iwa is that she spoke up for herself, right? So in when I think about Iwa, I think about us using our voice,
Mm.
right, to speak up, and our voice as women to amplify, right? And say like, hey, even when something is right and when it's not right, right? Being able to amplify our voices because Iwa didn't just sit back and say, like, I just gonna take it. She was like, no, I'm not. Like, I'm going to change this. And even though she wasn't helped, right? She wasn't helped by those babalawos, right? She was still a strong woman and she knew that she needed something different for herself. And I've actually seen two different versions of the ending of that Odu. So there's one version where Orumila does a divination, right? And Iwa comes back to her. Iwa comes back to him. And I'm hoping, my prayer is right, that he's going to treat her better. There's another version that I've seen, the ending. So, you go to different towns and you might get different
Yeah.
versions of the same Odu, where Iwa decides to not go back to Orumila. And she says, like, I'm just going to go back to heaven, right? And this is the way in which people will be able to access me, right? Because now I will go back to heaven. I'm not staying here on earth for the BS. I'm not here for that. But everyone will have access to me. It's giving me chills, right? And I'll just return to heaven. That's what I'll do. And you can access me that way. But the fact that Orumila was actually having to chase after, right? So that's the thing. So Orumila had to chase after Iwa. We're chasing character, right? A lot of times we're chasing character because we are not living in alignment with who we're truly supposed to be, right? As a husband, I'm sure he wasn't supposed to be mistreating his wife. And Iwa spoke up against it and said, I don't want that for myself. And I think that that's where we are in life right now. I think in as a people, we're in a space where it's time for us to speak up, right? Women in specific, it's time for us to speak up and amplify. Amplify our voice in community, amplify our voice in our family. Not run over anybody, right? But talk to each other and amplify our voice and make ourselves accessible. because we're leaders, right? It's time for us to start leading.
That that'll do if on your explanation of it also makes me think of just how important character is to the fulfillment of destiny,
That's right.
right? And so thinking about in life, there's so much that I'm gonna talk from a space of right? That I am in pursuit of, like I am in pursuit of success of my organization. I'm in pursuit of my health. I'm in pursuit of my husband sometimes, right? Like wanting, like there's so much desire put there and I just question myself and like, are you equally pursuing your character? Are you
Mm,
equally pursuing your good character every day? Which sometimes is speaking up and sometimes it's shutting up, right? Like,
mhm.
like,
Depending on
am
which
I
one,
seeking
absolutely.
iwapwele, right?
Mhm.
Am I stepping in? Am I stepping back? And if I'm honest, that's something I'm practicing that I want to learn and I want to hold character at the forefront of everything
We
because I want
all
to
are,
live
man.
my destiny well.
Yeah. I think we all are. This is the conversation. We are all always chasing character, right? We're all trying to hold on to our good or to our balanced character. Iwa pele. Right. I think it's important to say balanced character as opposed to like good character because I think we get caught up on words sometimes. But iwa pele is the thing, right? It's your balanced character, like being able to hold on to that no matter what is happening around you. Like I think our character gets tested on a regular basis. It might just be for sport, for all I know. But like being able to really walk in balance and talk, to think, right? So that's the other thing. Like this is not just about the things you say. I think for most of us, we're to the point now in our life where we might, we ain't killing nobody. Um, or pray that we're not. Like there might be times where we use our words wrong, right? And that might take us out of character. But our thoughts, man, the way we think, I think that is something to super focus on. The way in which our the way in which we use our minds and we project, the way we manifest, the way we create. Are we creating with Iwapele? What are we creating? What if you look out in the world and if we believe that we are creators and that we created this thing, that means that we did this, right? Which also means we can change it, which is what I truly believe in my soul. I believe that we can change it. But that's going to take a level of work that is collective. It's not just individual. There's no way that it's individual. It has to be collective.
So we've kind of talked about the beginning of this, which was like Iwa clothing line, right? And you've done some things in clothing, and I want you to talk a little bit about Iwa, its brand or who it is. But I want to get to where we are today because we're on a podcast, right? That is the voices of Iwa. And we're content creators this morning. But I
Yeah.
want you to just take me through a quick timeline of inspiring women's apparel to the 5 A's. We've talked about that, right? Some values around, oh, this thing is more than just cute in naming. We talked
Mhm.
about the intersection with Oduifa, right? And the
Mhm.
name of this thing really now being grounded in the tradition and in character. And so tell me what we've done, just some quick highlights, things we've achieved, right?
Yeah.
From the clothing brand to the lifestyle brand, because I want to get into like the piece of this that is the voices of Iwa.
Yes. I'm so hard on myself. I really appreciate having like friends and people around me that are like, gee whiz, lady, like we really did do a lot. So we launched in 2017. And when we launched in 2017, we opened, I don't even remember the name of the art gallery right now. But we used the art gallery downtown, Black owned art gallery. It'll probably come to me. The name will come to me. But in April of 2017, we launched. We had a fashion show, a party. It was really beautiful. That was the first line of clothing that we had. And then after that, I think we did. fashion shows in Miami because we did Egg Bay Festival 2 years in a row. Iya was doing a large Egg Bay Festival in Miami, and we traveled to Miami to be a part of that and to um organize the fashion show that was a part of um that. So I think that was 2018 and 2019. Yep, that's right. It was 2018 and 2019. And then in 2019, it was crazy because I was doing another event. I was the leader of the coordinator of another event called 2020, which was a fundraiser here in Atlanta for Sister Love Incorporated. Laura Mustafa and I were working on it. And I met a designer who liked what I was wearing. Because one of the things I loved to do was to wear Iwa clothes wherever I was. He was like, I like your style. I like what you do. Like where'd you get that from? And I explained to them, like, oh, like this is a part of our designs. He was like, what? Would you like to come to New York Fashion Week? I was like, what? New York Fashion Week. This is year 2. I think that was a year 7 goal or something, right? And I was really excited. And everybody was like, it's going to be a lot of work, but we put together a team. And in February 2019, we went to New York and we did New York Fashion Week. And actually before that, I think we actually did a fashion show here in Atlanta too. So we were starting to get traction. We were starting to get some attention, the good kind. And I also think that it was about balance and and burnout in a little bit, right? Because there was a lot of things that we needed to do, a lot of things we needed to figure out, and we hadn't figured them all out yet. And we were going with the opportunities that came, which felt really good. Um, I think I couldn't keep up with. I didn't keep up with all of it. I couldn't keep up with all of it. And then shortly after that, I got married, and then COVID came. Right, we got a house, the Iwa house, um, in
Mhm.
2019. We also got the Iwa house in 2019, which we wanted to make like that was gonna be the hub, right, for any events that we were doing. We had some pop-up shops that we were doing there, and those were really great. I really loved working with, because it wasn't just, you know, Iwa clothing, right? We had other jewelers, other clothing lines. We had a person that had a makeup line. We had skincare. So these pop up shops were actually really dope. It was during COVID, right? When people weren't really coming together that much, but did give us an opportunity to come together. And then the EY House had a couple of great events that we were able to do while we were there. I think we were there for about 3 years, and then left the EY house. And this was when I think there were some internal things also within myself that were also going on in my own growth, in my own understanding of what this is and what it's not. I mean, I think at the EY house was when I realized like this is so much more than a clothing line. There's an opportunity for us to do narrative, right? Like really tell stories, tell the stories of women. This was also when I started putting together. I started working on I think I'll go ahead and say it here. I started working on a book, um, and that book was around the healing processes of women. And in order to write the book, I had this idea to like, well, let me go ahead and let me use some of these concepts with women, right? Because I don't. That's always my thing. I want data. Like I want to make sure that what I'm saying is accurate, and I'm just not making it up. So I had 4 women um, go through this book with me that I had started working on, and these concepts around healing and using the Orisha to heal ourselves, right? Using our stories and to heal ourselves and our sisterhood, right? The bond that we have as women to really heal ourselves. And I stayed there for a while, right? Like just working on that. And EY kind of got put to the side because I was like, I can't balance all of this. This is a lot. Not only that, but I think I was also, if I'm honest, I was going through my own depression and stuff. Like I was going through my own cycles of letting go and understanding and moving more towards my own alignment with who I was, and who I wasn't also.
Mm.
And that took some time, right? Took some time, and I'm saying that. So what was that? 2021. So we're in 2024 now, and we have had, I've done three cycles of, I don't know if I want to still call them seasons, 3 seasons of women that have been a part of this group with us and gone through this book. The book is, about to be published. I'm excited about it. Um, but yeah, I think I've been quietly working. And then in the midst of this, really started to understand like, hey, all of this stuff is related. Like you weren't, you feel like you put Iwa down, but actually Iwa and Obirdine and, all of these things, they work together. Like how do you map them and lay them out so that they're working together because they're all a part of your destiny? And that really made me yearn to pick back up Iwa.
Mhm.
Um, like really, really long to pick it back up and to make sure that it wasn't gonna just be put down.
So I want to echo um, my understanding that it is all one thing.
Right.
Right, and that I watched, right? I'm here on the podcast watching you recount a story that I got to be um co-starring, right? A supporting actress. I got to be a supporting actress. I get to play friend. I'm also goddaughter, right? So I play different roles in this story, but I'm watching, and as you recount it, I've been watching you build an ecosystem, right? I have been watching you
Mhm.
build a lifestyle brand, but I've been watching you do the work that you were building. So I think I have an interesting perspective because a lot of time people are building companies, right? They're building companies, and you are doing that. You are building a lifestyle brand that has a business structure and it has pieces in it, right? Talk about writing a book. We talk about producing clothing, right? We're talking about women's group. And in practice, I am watching you live being of support to women who are aligning with themselves with destiny and their destinies and helping them find their longing and their yearning. I am watching you help them find voice and being a really good reflector. Like sometimes I'm in the car and you're receiving phone calls and you're having deep and meaningful and loving conversations with the different women in the Ile, in your family, in your life, right? And in these groups, right? I am watching you wear the clothes like we go out all the time, right? This is how I am watching you actively use your brand, not because you are branding it, right? That's the secondary effect, but because you love the clothes and you love the look and the feeling, it is your authentic expression of self, right? I know that some of your earrings you make them, right? You got the extra long cowrie shell earrings, right? That you take the time to make. That you got them in today, right?
I didn't make
And so
these.
like, oh, but I am watching you live these things out, right? I was here. You were home for a while. Home. She has two homes. I want to name that home in the Virgin
Do.
Islands, home in Atlanta. So when I say home, I mean she was home in the Virgin Islands and being like, I'm dedicating days and time. Like I can't come out to play today, Summer, because I'm writing, because I'm downloading, because I'm organizing, right? And so like for the listener, I want to say like this business structure, this journey that you've been on and are on, I'm watching you live it, right? So this podcast conversation, which is like, oh, let's reflect back. I'm like, yeah, these things, I want to reflect to you that these things from my perspective are also very true, that they've been related. And I've also had the privilege of watching you like figure out your space, right? Like Is this me? Like I do it in good food. You know, like I think common term is imposter syndrome, where you're like, oh, this is so big. Is this mine to do? Like it can't be, you know, like I'm not the leader they're calling for. I'm not the one who's supposed to write the book. I'm not the face of the brand. I'm not the food leader. You know, like
Definitely.
you just like, because it often feels so big, and
Mm.
it's just like it's really surreal. And so I have the popcorn view of watching you locate yourself in your destiny and find the courage to stand and own it. And then I'm also watching you find your stride with it, right? And even in places dance and play with it and find joy in it. And for listeners, you know, when you come to the podcast, like I want you to know that this is real, right? This is like this is real, 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 like tears, laughter, joy, hold my gut, hug a friend, celebrate at a dance party, like eat chicken wings because it's been a hard day, or eat chicken wings because it's been a beautiful day. Real, like it, like we are, you
That's
know,
ways of living.
yeah, I just because I hope that a person listening to your story can find themselves in it, even though the context may be slightly different, the pace may be slower or faster, but it
Mhm.
is all these things, the time it takes to carry your destiny well and to be authentic to it. It's a
Yeah.
journey. Um,
A
and
journey and
so
not a
on
destination.
on that journey, um, if there was one thing, your greatest good that Iwa the lifestyle brand would do, beginning with the voices of Iwa, what would that be? What is your dream for this?
Um, Man, my dream is that women all over the world, I'm go ahead and say all over the world, um, will have access and feel supported in accessing their ancestry so that they can access their destiny. So that may look like, um, that may look like sister circles. That may look like listening to listening in on sister circles, right? Because that's really what this podcast was going to be. It's going to be, women talking to women about women stuff, right? So you get a little inside in on a sister circle conversation. Um, it will look support. It'll look like support, and no one and no Black woman feeling like she is alone in it, because this space exists where she can get some support in accessing her highest destiny. She'll have mirrors all around her, that are reflecting back to her the best and highest of herself. And even when it reflects the ugly stuff, she'll also have support in working on that, you know, because I think that's what this whole time has been for me, right? This whole time has been this whole journey, and it's still happening. So please, under no circumstances am I finished. I'm quite hard on myself when I feel like I have a mishap. I mean, even like literally the other day, like, I had an emotional outburst and I just wasn't happy. I was like, oh my God, I just want to be able to not be triggered. I want to not, have these type of feelings. But I realized that there was some deep hurt there. And I was accessing that, right? And it was happening in real time. And I was like, you know what? And I had friends and sisters that I could call on. I was like, today was fucked up. It was hard today. Today was hard. Like I fell short of what I wanted to do. I apologized for it, and nobody's gonna accept my apology today, but maybe they will next week. And they reflected back to me, You were one of those people. Another one of my sisters was another one, like, took me out for chicken wings, and it reflected back to me, um, that, there was a lot of good that I do in the world, and that today was today and tomorrow was gonna be something else. And that I had actually to get ready for this because this was an important week for me, and help me to stay focused. So I'm just grateful. I want more Black women to have that. I want more Black women to have access to that, to know how to call on your ancestors. That's what I did before I got here. I was able to call on my ancestors and be like, "Help me, come behind me. I'm a little nervous. I want to lean back. I want to have some fun. I don't want to feel so heavy." Right? And they're taking that right off of me. I want more of us to have that because it's ours. Yeah.
So in heaviness, I'm gonna ask a real question.
That
All the questions were real, but for me, this is real because as you were talking about the power of ancestors and Iwa, and I feel like this has been about story and narrative, and your narrative in specific.
mm,
What would you say to someone who says to you, well, Black women don't like Black women and Black women don't want to support Black women? So, like, because there's a
yeah.
narrative out there that said we don't like each other. Now,
Narrative like that.
I tell you all the time, I lay you like cook food, right? I'm just like, I send her gushy emails or text messages periodically, like, I love you so much, right? And it feels like that type of sincere care doesn't feel prevalent or accessible, right? So if that is a problem in our world, right? How can Iwa or this work, the book, the podcast, the clothing line,
Yeah.
the lifestyle, be a solution? Because one, is that true for you? And two, what solutions do you got to offer or ideas?
Yeah. Yeah. So one, that's not true for me, right? I have been blessed to be around some amazing, badass Black women. I love Black women. Like I love us. Um, I love Black men too. I love Black people. But I mean, I love us. I haven't had, have I had some situations? Sure. But when I look back on it, I still think that we're friggin' amazing. And so yes, I actually, within our circle, we've had women that have been like, I'm gonna give this a try only because, I mess with you. But, like Black women on a whole, like I don't see no sister circle for me. Right? I don't see that being for me. And as they do their work, right? As they continue their work, they'll eat the words, right? Because and they'll be like, I was wrong. I was just around the wrong group of women. And I don't necessarily know if it's the wrong group of women. You might have just been around some women that hadn't gone through their healing process yet. They're still in it. Right? Every time we go outside, right? We live in a world that doesn't trust Black women. We live in a world that doesn't uphold us, who doesn't nurture us, it doesn't take care of us, it doesn't protect us, right? And so that means that we have to offer that for each other. And I believe truly, I truly, truly, truly believe this in my heart. When we do that for each other, I know that the men around us will do something different. I believe that when we can create that for ourselves, we can be examples of what that looks like. We can hold that example. And I believe the world around us will change also. I believe the perspective that we walk with will change.
As you said that, I thought of, you got my brain turned on because as you said that, the fact that this is about African tradition and African
Yeah.
spiritualism, and it's rooted in that, all of a sudden, I don't know if I thought about it in this way before that, but I understand, for me, something opened up in my understanding about what community means in the Western world versus what community
Mm,
means in the East, in other cultures. And as
yeah,
a woman raised in a society where right, the individual and rugged individualism and this lack of safety and security is around, it really could be hard to find myself as one among many and let that communal I or that communal we be a safe space, because you're right, we have been taught, and the images on TV, right? Like the images on TV, reality TV, movies, they show us coming for each other. So like we are eating this narrative every day, all day. Our
Yeah.
daughters are eating this narrative, right?
Yeah.
Like, and then when you do have an experience, because everybody is not for everybody. Like we can respect every human, but every human is not the person you're gonna drink a mimosa with, or or go for a smoothie with in the person. You don't want to
Right.
have
Right.
steak with every human being you met. If you're vegan, oyster mushrooms, if you're listening, don't gotta be about steak. It could be mushroom steak. But we have been conditioned now to let those experiences where it doesn't work, that is reinforced by the visual narrative out there in the world that it is not going to work. So all of a
Ever.
sudden, it's
Hmm.
super real. And so now I'm like, oh, this is what the podcast is supposed to do. It's supposed to take up space with another narrative, with another place where people can hear another story. Um,
Yeah.
so that the only or the dominant stories in the world aren't of the spaces where we disagree or it doesn't work, because that is true. But there is equal or more spaces where it does work and it can. And you said something else about accountability. Where does the condition of Sommer, my personal condition, my personal beliefs, my personal values, my personal experiences, my personal need to heal, where is that showing up in my relationship with women? And if I am
Everywhere.
doing my part, will that
Yeah.
change my success rate with finding my women, with finding my tribe? So
Yeah.
yeah, thank you for saying what you said, because I heard you differently in this moment.
Yeah. Which is crazy because we talk all the time, and I love that about you. You're always like, I heard something new. Like, you know, I so yes, Mama Marimba, Mama Marimba Ani, I love her. Um, one of the things that she talks about is she talks about she's a strong advocate for like sovereignty and the African warrior, but she talks about the fact that the personal is collective. And I don't know if I fully got it until I was really going through my personal journey and really understanding how me doing my personal work and taking a stand to bring my warrior energy to my personal work, how that impacts my whole entire community. I am a better person, right? I show up better, right? My hugs are real. My ability to get to my destiny and live my destiny is not just for me, right? It's not just for me. So me living my destiny creates a whole space and a whole world for other people to do their work so that they can live their destiny too. Like if that's not God, then I don't know what is. Right? Like, and at this point, I don't think we have a choice. I mean, we could keep doing the same shit. It ain't working, right? And at this point, I, to take that notion from Iwa, right? Well, we can say, hey, this don't work no more. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this way anymore, right? I don't want to do this anyway. This way. I wish in that story that Iwa had other women around her. I really wish that. Even as I said it again, I get chills. Like I wish Iwa had other women around her that could have taken her up so she didn't have to go knocking on every single Babalawo's door looking for some help. Because the truth about it is in our African state, in our African consciousness, there's women all around us all the time that would say, hey, I got you. Hey, you're okay. I can make space for you, right? That is where we are in the world. And that is what I pray that Iwa will do for the world. That we will continue to make space for one another. That we will continue to make the room and amplify each other's voices, to get to know one another better, to sit across the table from one another and have different perspectives, be from different parts of the world, but be able to focus on the places and the spaces where we're similar and not just the places and spaces where we're different, right? Like that is, I can be from the Caribbean and somebody can be from the continent of Africa and somebody can be from from Philadelphia, and another person can be from Deep South. But there is a undercurrent and a narrative that is shared by our ancestors, right? And that is what we access to get to the space of healing, not just for ourselves or our families, but for our entire community. And I truly believe that women will lead that way.
Well, I'm just like, Iya Omi is over there like dropping all gems. And sometimes y'all I tease her up because I'm like, Omi, Tiffany, Iya, because the multiplicity of who you are in the world and how you show up, right? I think it's important for people to know that you're a mama, you're a daughter, you're a wife, you're a friend, you're a priest, you're a business owner, right? Like, Yuza Carnival Feta, like, you're a human. She's a great cook, best kale salad. You're dependable. I can I can count on you. I have counted on you, right? Like, and because you're so dependable and consistent, um, I've been able to grow my life, right? And you're graceful, truly graceful. And so, like, as people listen to the podcast and we're put in context, because I also, in your last words, I was like, ooh, and she's also so powerful, right? And I hope I reflect that to you often. It's different
Thank you.
because I'm reflecting it to you in a very public space right now because we're on a podcast. Right. So everybody, again, the
I don't
tears,
have a
but like,
microphone.
I hope you feel that from the depth of my heart, right? That if I hope it comes through well in the voices of Iwa, right? Like that people stop and listen to feel um what it is I was gonna say this Care Bear has to offer. Because what's your mantra what's your mantra in this family? You should tell them.
Huh?
We care. That's
Oh, we
that is
care. That's a story. She's
that's
talking
the
about
whole
something that happened with my children. They were really young. I was like, listen, we care. Like my son said, like, I don't care. He was talking to his sister. And I pulled the car over. Summer was in the car. And she always be like, okay. Because I was like, we care, goddamn it. Like we care. That's not something that I let them tell each other.
but it's something that you live. You care. You really
I do.
care. And you really care about women. And you care about the world and you care about our role in the world. And so if I'm new to the podcast and I'm listening and this is your first episode and I stumbled on it, what would you tell me to do? What is something I can do? Where can I find you? How can I keep in
Mhm.
touch? How should I, what are the actions I should take to hear more of this?
Yeah. So I would say you came to the channel or you came to, Spotify or Apple, wherever you are. Then there are look on our website, www.iwalifestyle.com. There'll be more information there. There'll be more information also on how to connect with us. There'll be more information there also on in-person events that will be coming up, right? We have some things coming up in November that are through Idin which is the temple here. For ancestors in specific, we have an ancestral festival coming up in March. So this season, this specific season this season of Voices of EY is going to deal with the roles, right, that we see women play in community. So each episode, we're going to talk about, the role of mother, the role of daughter, the role of Ialosha, the role of Apetebi. We're going to talk about these different roles that we see women play and how those roles impact our lives. Maybe even how those roles have changed, right? Like from a traditional standpoint to like where we are today. And so this episode, there'll be about 20 episodes. The episodes will drop every Wednesday. I happen to be born on Wednesday, so that is why we've decided to drop them on Wednesday. They'll drop every Wednesday, and then at the end of the end of the season will be in March. at the end of March, we're going to have a culminating in-person event for women that is going to be really special. We'll give you more information about that probably sometime in December. So be looking out for that. And then there'll be some books that will be dropping as well. There'll be a prayer book that'll be dropping. And then Obiri no Nisheshe, a traditional woman, will be coming out in March as well. So stay tuned for that. You can also look for us on Instagram, the IWA brand. My personal Instagram is Omi, O-M-I, Pennick, P-E-N-N-I-C-K. I'm on Facebook also. So yeah, there's plenty of ways to get to interact with us. Like, comment, share. Please feel free to comment, on this episode, like it, share it with friends, and tune in every Wednesday. Tune in every Wednesday. Feel free that there's a pilot episode also. There's still time for you to give us feedback to our pilot episode, which was taped back in September. That'll be up on YouTube as well. So if you are looking at this episode and you haven't seen the pilot, you can go back and watch the pilot. And if you give us feedback, there's a form there. If you give us feedback, we'll send you a free Apple Works t-shirt if you give us your information to send it. We'll do that for up to 100 people. So there's plenty of ways to get to and to interact with us. We're hoping to continue to grow our listening audience. And then as things roll out, right, as we get deeper, there's be some things that we're going to be coming out with. There'll be an app soon where we'll be creating community together. And then, of course, there'll be plenty of clothing, different ways that you can also support the brand as well. We're excited about where we are. We're excited about where we're going. Yeah, this is the time. This is the time.
Say I love you so much.
I love you too. I really appreciate you. I know, and today's like a really busy day, y'all. If y'all don't know, like Summer has like 10,000 things to do today. I'm aware of how how much her organization is doing, and she was like, "Nope, I got an hour. I can do this." So thank you for taking the time out of your day to be here with me and to be here with us. I really appreciate you.
This has been an honor. It's been an honor to be your friend, an honor to be your goddaughter, and an honor to be able to, I feel like, I know finally is the wrong word, but I feel like what can I give? What can I do to reciprocate the level of care that I receive? And so there is no place else in the world that I want to be right now besides supporting you. That this is the highlight of my day. Because none of the other stuff would exist had you not paused so many times to support me. So whenever you need me, I'll be right here. Besides, y'all, if you can't tell, I like to talk.
You know what's funny? As anytime anybody, I always think of this, right? The people were praising their priests, and their priests were praising Ifa or the Orisha. It was just as the Orisha said. So I don't take any credit for any of this stuff. I really think that the Orisha, Ifa, my Egbe, the ancestors, right? Like we're obedient to them, and they lead the way. And so, in closing, I want to just close this first episode with a prayer. And I want to pray for the spirit of Iwa. So may the spirit of Iwa always live within us. May our character get to the door long before we do. May we remember to amplify our voice and to speak out against any and all injustice, and to also speak the good things that are happening in our life. May we commune together. May we love one another. And may we continue to elevate mind, body, and spirit. May we reach our individual destiny so that we can reach our collective destiny as a people. And may that start here today. Ashe.
Okay.
Appreciate you all so much for tuning in to this first episode in the first season of Voices of EY. Remember to like, share, and comment on this episode, and we will see you soon.